Congratulations on booking that ultra-soft $2,000 ergonomic recliner for your living room. You have successfully purchased the fastest, most comfortable way to dissolve your own skeleton. Do not worry, orthopedic surgeons need to fund their yacht club memberships too. I am Orion, and this is Paleo Mechanics. Today, we are using evolutionary data and Wolff's law of bone transformation to expose why the fitness industry is lying to you with heavily padded isolation machines, and why the concept of a peaceful retirement is a biological trap. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will realize a chilling biological truth about what we call aging gracefully. A truth that is quietly stripping away your basic human functions. But before we face that reality, let us laugh at our own absurdity. The aerospace industry spends millions of dollars trying to figure out how to stop astronauts from losing their bone density in the zero-gravity environment of outer space. It is a massive physiological crisis for long-term space travel. Out there, without the constant downward pull of Earth's gravity, the human skeleton looks around, realizes it does not need to hold up the body anymore, and simply begins to dissolve itself to save energy. It is a brilliant, highly efficient survival mechanism. Why maintain thick, expensive structural concrete if you are just floating in a puddle? But here is the magnificent irony of modern civilization. NASA spends a fortune fighting zero gravity, while you simulate it perfectly for free every single night watching Netflix. Your couch is essentially a terrestrial space station, minus the spectacular view and the scientific contribution. Let us talk about Julius Wolff, a 19th century German anatomist who discovered what is now the holy grail of biomechanics, Wolff's law. It dictates that your bones will mechanically adapt to the loads under which they are placed. Inside your body, there is a constant, ruthless battle between osteoblasts, the cells that build your bone, and osteoclasts, the cells that break it down to recycle the minerals into your bloodstream. If you subject your bones to heavy, compressive forces, meaning gravity pushing down on you while you stand and carry things, your osteoblasts wake up and reinforce the trabecular network. That is the internal honeycomb-like structure of your bone. Your skeleton is not a static piece of concrete poured at birth. It is a highly demanding mechanical bank account. If you do not make physical weight-bearing deposits, the bank closes your account and the osteoclasts immediately step in to liquidate your asset. Compare our modern lifestyle to the Hadza tribe in East Africa. When researchers examine the bone density of 70-year-old Hadza hunter-gatherers, they do not find severe osteoporosis. They find the skeletal density of a 30-year-old modern office worker. Why? Because when you are 70 years old and you still have to carry heavy firewood and squat on the dirt without a padded backrest, your body receives constant, unforgiving gravitational commands to stay strong. They do not survive because of some magical genetic cheat code. They survive because they are not actively trying to escape gravity. We, on the other hand, treat gravity like a toxic ex-partner we are desperately trying to avoid. We buy thicker shoe soles, softer mattresses, and hydraulic desk chairs with adjustable lumbar support that cost more than a used car. We engineer entire indoor environments to ensure we never have to physically resist the earth pulling us down. We think we are protecting our joints. We think we are resting, but your osteoblasts do not see a relaxing evening. They see absolute obsolescence. They look at your highly supported, motionless spine, they look at the lack of mechanical tension, and they think, excellent, the war is over. We do not need this rigid scaffolding anymore. Break it down. You are not aging faster. You are not a victim of time. You are simply the victim of an overly comfortable living room. You are outsourcing your structural integrity to your furniture, and your body is enthusiastically complying with your desire to become physically irrelevant. And so, your osteoblasts have officially filed for early retirement. So, after realizing your couch is a demineralization chamber, your next logical thought is probably influenced by decades of terrible, mainstream medical advice. You think, well, Orion, I should probably stand up more, but I must absolutely minimize my movement to protect my joints. After all, I only have so many steps before my knees grind into dust like an old set of brake pads. This is what I call the car mechanic fallacy of human biology. We have been completely brainwashed to view our bodies as inanimate, industrial machines. We think of our knees, hips, and ankles as metal hinges on a cheap door. The theory goes that the more you open and close the door, the faster the metal wears out. It makes perfect sense if you are constructed out of steel, plastic, and WD-40, but you are a biological organism. You are made of living, highly responsive tissue. And this fundamental misunderstanding of biomechanics is the exact reason why your joints are currently starving to death. Let us look at the articular cartilage in your knees. This is the incredibly smooth white tissue that covers the ends of your bones and allows them to glide perfectly against one another without friction. Unlike almost every other living tissue in your human body, your cartilage is entirely avascular. It has no veins, it has no arteries, it has no direct blood supply pumping oxygen and nutrients into it. So how does it survive? How does a living cell eat without a blood vessel? It uses a purely mechanical, physical process called cartilage imbibition. Imagine a dry kitchen sponge sitting on your countertop. If you pour a cup of soapy water around it, the edges might get a little damp, but the center remains completely dry and brittle. The only way to get that liquid into the deepest, thickest part of the sponge is to forcefully compress it with your hand, squeeze all the old air and stagnant fluid out, and then release it so it creates a vacuum to violently suck the new fluid in. Your cartilage works exactly the same way with synovial fluid, the natural lubricant inside your joints. The only way your cartilage can eat the nutrients suspended in your joint fluid is if it is forcefully compressed under heavy mechanical load, and then released. Compression and decompression, squeeze and release. It is a hydraulic pump powered by gravity and movement. Now think about what happens when a well-meaning physician, armed with outdated, overly cautious theories, tells a 60-year-old patient to stay off their feet to save their deteriorating knee. Or when you, in your 30s, decide to spend the entire weekend completely motionless to rest your achy joints after a long week of sitting at a desk. Without weight-bearing compression, the sponge is never squeezed. The synovial fluid just pools uselessly around the outside of the cartilage. The cartilage cells, the chondrocytes, begin to literally suffocate and starve. They dry out, they lose their elasticity, they become incredibly brittle, and eventually they crack and flake away. By actively trying to save your joint from wear and tear, you have successfully induced a localized famine. Sitting completely still to protect your cartilage is exactly like draining all the water from a swimming pool to save the fish. You are eliminating the friction, sure, but you are also completely eliminating the only mechanism keeping the tissue alive. Our evolutionary ancestors did not worry about preserving their knees for their twilight years. They walked 10 to 15 miles a day over unforgiving, uneven terrain. They carried children, heavy firewood, and animal carcasses. They constantly, relentlessly squeezed the sponge. They nourished their joints through brutal, unyielding gravity. Today, we invent motorized scooters for the grocery store and install elevators for a single flight of stairs. We buy heavily cushioned, maximalist running shoes to absorb the impact, unknowingly dampening the exact mechanical force required to compress that cartilage sponge. We intercept the nutritional signal before it even reaches the knee. We are so utterly terrified of wearing out our cartilage that we actively dehydrate it instead. We think we are extending the warranty on our physical bodies, but in reality, we are just carefully preserving a biological corpse while we are still breathing. Your knee just became the Sahara Desert, and you are the one who proudly turned off the rain. Every morning, millions of people wake up, stumble into their beautifully illuminated, climate-controlled kitchens, and drop a highly engineered, orange-flavored calcium tablet into a glass of water. They watch it fizz. They drink it with a profound, almost religious sense of accomplishment. They genuinely believe they are building an impenetrable skeletal fortress before commuting to their ergonomic desk jobs. The modern wellness and supplement industry has successfully convinced civilization that bone health is a simple chemical equation. It is marketed as a mathematical formula you can solve simply by swallowing a pill. It is a very comforting, highly profitable narrative for a sedentary society. You do not have to lift anything heavy, you just have to buy something expensive. It is also a spectacular, multi-billion-dollar biological lie. Your skeletal system does not operate on a passive delivery service. It does not matter how bioavailable, how organically sourced, or how incredibly expensive your calcium supplement is. Your bones operate on a strict, non-negotiable evolutionary principle called mechanotransduction. This is the physiological mechanism where your cells convert physical loading, actual brutal mechanical force, into biochemical responses. And it gets even more fascinating when you look at the micro level of human biomechanics. When you carry a heavy load, your bones actually bend. It is a microscopic bend, but it is enough to trigger something called the piezoelectric effect. The physical deformation of the bone matrix generates a tiny electrical charge. This electrical charge acts as a biological flare gun, signaling exactly where the osteoblasts need to go to deposit calcium and reinforce the structure. No mechanical load, no physical bending, no electrical charge, no flare gun, no bone building. Imagine your bone cells as highly secure bank vaults, and the calcium is the cash. You can flood the lobby of the bank with as much cash as you want, But if you do not have the specific combination code to open the vault door, that cash is never getting inside. In your body, the only combination code that opens the osteoblast vault door is physical compression and mechanical tension. In simple terms, if you do not subject your bones to heavy compressive forces, the cellular doors remain firmly locked. You can flood your bloodstream with all the premium calcium you want, but without mechanical stress, your skeleton essentially puts up an access denied sign. So what happens to all that excess calcium? Where does it go? It does not just magically evaporate into the ether. The human body has to process the minerals you blindly forced into it. When your bones reject the minerals because you spent the last 8 hours safely cocooned in a chair that perfectly contours to your lumbar spine, those minerals continue to circulate in your blood. Eventually, they have to settle somewhere. Often, they decide to calcify your arteries, slowly stiffening your cardiovascular system. Or they settle comfortably in your kidneys. Congratulations! You successfully avoided doing a heavy deadlift and instead, you just bought yourself a highly premium, organically sourced kidney stone. You have successfully created the world's most expensive calcium-fortified urine. In 2026, we have people meticulously tracking their micronutrient profiles on their titanium smartwatches, perfectly optimizing their calcium to magnesium ratios, while simultaneously possessing the gripping power of a damp towel. We call this biohacking. Evolution calls it a joke. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors did not possess effervescent tablets. They did not monitor their micronutrient intake on a smartphone app. Their bones were as dense as cold-rolled steel because they carried heavy loads across uneven terrain. They absorbed minerals from their rough, unrefined diets because their bodies desperately demanded structural repairs every single day. The cells were screaming for calcium because the mechanical stress was relentless. The mechanism of passive absorption is an illusion sold to a society utterly terrified of physical exertion. We want the biological rewards of a hard life while living an unimaginably soft one. It defies the fundamental laws of evolutionary engineering. Taking a supplement to fix a sedentary lifestyle is like pouring premium synthetic oil over the hood of a car that has been parked in a garage for 10 years, expecting the engine to somehow rebuild itself. Your skeleton is far smarter than you. It knows you are trying to trick it with a citrus-flavored drink instead of picking up something heavy. Until you provide the mechanical demand, your calcium is just highly flavored biological waste. Let us address the slightly more ambitious modern human. The one who actually listens to their doctor, gets off the couch, and decides to exercise. But because we are still obsessed with comfort and terrified of our own fragility, we seek out the holy grail of modern medical fitness advice: the low-impact workout. Your physician looks at your slightly aching knees, panics at the thought of mechanical wear and tear, and prescribes a highly sterile, heavily sanitized solution. Try swimming, they say, take up indoor cycling, keep it low impact, save your joints. Do not jar your spine. It sounds incredibly responsible. It sounds like advanced medical wisdom. And it is the absolute fastest way to turn your femur into a delicate, porous honeycomb. When you step into a swimming pool, you are essentially stepping into an aquatic anti-gravity chamber. The water's buoyancy completely supports your body weight. It removes the harsh, unforgiving force of gravity. You glide through the water with zero friction, zero jarring impact, and zero compressive force traveling up through your skeletal system. For your joints, it feels like a luxurious vacation. For your osteoblasts, those bone-building cells desperately waiting for a mechanical signal, it feels like a death sentence. Evolution did not design the human frame to glide smoothly through frictionless environments. We are not dolphins. We are terrestrial, bipedal predators. Our bones demand a specific type of mechanical stress known as impact microtrauma. Every time your heel strikes the hard earth when you run or carry a heavy load, a violent shockwave travels up your leg. This microscopic violence causes tiny, invisible fractures in the bone matrix. To a modern, comfort-obsessed human, the word fracture is terrifying. But to your biology, a microfracture is a mandatory work order. It forces the body to rapidly lay down new, denser bone tissue to prevent future failure. Without that violent shockwave, without that repeated jarring impact, the work orders stop. The construction crew goes home. The piezoelectric flare gun we talked about earlier is never fired, because the bone is never forced to bend under a sudden load. Let us look at the indoor cycling phenomenon in 2026. You sit hunched over a stationary bicycle in a dark room, furiously pedaling to electronic music. You are sweating, you feel incredibly productive, but analyze the mechanical vectors. Your body weight is entirely supported by a padded saddle. Your spine is locked in a rounded, kyphotic curve, the exact same posture you hold at your office desk. just with a higher heart rate. There is zero axial loading. There is zero impact. You are exhausting your muscles while your skeleton remains completely offline, tricked into thinking it is resting in a chair. Swimming and indoor cycling are phenomenal cardiovascular exercises. They will undoubtedly strengthen your heart. They will expand your lung capacity. But we need to look at the horrifying biomechanical paradox this creates for people who rely on them exclusively. If you only swim or cycle into your 70s to protect your joints, you will develop a highly optimized cardiovascular system. You will possess a heart capable of pumping blood with extreme efficiency, directly through a skeletal frame made of brittle styrofoam. You are basically putting a Ferrari V-8 racing engine inside a chassis made of wet papier-mâché. You will step out of the pool with the lung capacity of an Olympian, slip on a wet tile in the locker room, and shatter your hip in 3 places because your pelvis has the structural integrity of a dry cracker. You have engineered the perfect modern paradox. You are simultaneously incredibly fit and structurally doomed. The ancient warriors of Rome and the hunter-gatherers of the Paleolithic era did not preserve their bone density by doing water aerobics in the Mediterranean. Professional tennis players have noticeably thicker bones in their racket arms because of the violent, jarring impact of striking the ball. They invite the impact, they require the shockwave, we try so hard to avoid the ground. We buy thick rubber mats for our floors, we ride on smooth, suspended bicycles, we float in chlorinated pools. But if you spend your entire life avoiding the impact of the ground will eventually have its ultimate revenge. Because one day, gravity will pull you down, and your honeycomb skeleton will finally realize that a strong heart cannot save a shattered pelvis. Congratulations, you have become a very healthy jellyfish. Eventually, the modern human realizes their body is deteriorating, so they make a noble decision. They go to the gym. But because we are utterly addicted to comfort and deeply terrified of mechanical instability, we bring the exact same biomechanics of our living room sofa directly into the fitness center. Behold the leg press machine. It is the crowning jewel of industrial fitness engineering. It is a magnificent invention, primarily because it allows you to build massive, impressive thigh muscles while maintaining the exact spinal posture of a comatose patient. It is the ultimate biomechanical paradox. You sit down, you recline against a heavily padded backrest, and you push 400 pounds of steel away from you. Your quadriceps are burning, you feel incredibly powerful, you feel like a gladiator, but let us look at the vector of gravity. In evolutionary biology, the only force that builds true structural integrity in your core and your back is called axial loading. This is when gravity pushes a heavy weight directly down through your skull, down your cervical spine, through your lumbar region, and into your pelvis while your feet are firmly planted on the earth. But on a leg press, your spine is perfectly supported by a cushion. It is completely isolated from the weight. It is biomechanically offline. While your legs are simulating the effort of pushing a boulder up a hill, your spine thinks you are taking a nap in a hammock. And because your spine is safely isolated from the load, your osteoblasts go right back to sleep. You are building the engine of a heavy-duty tractor, but you are leaving it mounted on a chassis made of fragile glass. The fitness industry is brilliantly diabolical. They realize that modern human beings hate the terrifying instability of free weight. It is deeply uncomfortable to stand under a heavy barbell. You have to balance, you have to brace your abdominal wall. You have to actually connect your nervous system to the ground. So the engineers removed the balance. They removed the gravitational penalty. They bolted you into a comfortable chair and called it safe. But the deception of isolation machines does not stop at the spine. It is actively destroying your knees. Let us walk over to the seated leg extension machine, another comfortable chair. You sit down, hook your shins under a padded roller, and kick your legs up into the air to isolate the quadriceps. In nature, human beings never, ever isolate a single muscle group to move a heavy load. You do not see a Paleolithic hunter sitting on a rock, extending one leg at a time to slowly drag a mammoth carcass. You do not see a Roman legionnaire using a cable pulley system to carefully isolate his lateral deltoids. Evolution only respects the closed-kinetic chain, meaning your foot is anchored to the ground, and your ankle, knee, and hip joints all fire together in a synchronized, perfectly balanced symphony. When you squat or carry a heavy log, the surrounding muscles contract simultaneously. The hamstrings and the quads pull against each other, locking the joint tight and protecting the delicate ligaments inside. But when you sit on a machine and kick your leg out into the air, you break the kinetic chain. You introduce a massive, unnatural shear force. The machine's weight is trying to snap your lower leg off your knee joint like a dry twig. You are grinding the cartilage away and pulling violently on your anterior cruciate ligament, without the protective co-contraction of the surrounding muscles. You are literally paying a gym membership to slowly guillotine your own knee ligaments in the name of leg day. Now look at the legends. Look at the 80-year-old powerlifters who are completely shattering our modern expectations of age. People look at an 80-year-old Zinman Yang performing a heavy standing barbell deadlift, and they call it an anti-aging miracle. They think he has hacked the matrix. He is not hacking anything. He is simply subjecting his body to the primal, standing gravitational loads that our ancestors experienced daily. He is lifting free weights. He is standing on the ground. He is forcing his entire skeletal frame to stabilize a heavy load in a closed-kinetic chain. Meanwhile, you are paying a premium monthly gym fee to use a $3,000 padded machine that successfully bypasses the exact mechanical stress your spine and joints desperately need to survive. You are actively funding your own frailty. Your spine just reported a 404 error, mechanical stress not found, and the gym owner is laughing all the way to the bank. We have successfully engineered a society where you never have to squeeze, pull, or tear anything apart with your bare hands. We have voice-activated lights, automatic sliding doors, and electric can openers. We have eradicated the need for physical friction. And in our endless, terrified quest to protect our delicate wrists from carpal tunnel syndrome, we have inadvertently severed the most critical biological tether to our own longevity. I am talking about your grip strength. Medical science now points to your hands as the ultimate crystal ball for your mortality. According to massive epidemiological studies, including data published in the Lancet, the maximum isometric force of your grip is a more accurate predictor of all-cause mortality and cardiovascular death than your systolic blood pressure. Let me repeat that because it should completely alter how you view your office equipment. Your ability to physically crush an object in your hand is a better indicator of whether you will survive the next decade than your blood pressure. If you cannot open a jar of pickles without running it under hot water and using a rubber pad, you should probably start worrying about opening the door to your own survival. Grip strength is not just about the size of your forearm muscles. It is the purest mirror reflecting the integrity of your central nervous system. When you lose your grip, it means your brain is losing its ability to recruit motor units. This leads us to the silent epidemic of sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass. But here is the evolutionary joke. Sarcopenia does not start at age 70. It starts at age 30, and it specifically targets your type-2 fast-twitch muscle fibers first. Because you never sprint, you never jump, and you never lift heavy, awkward objects off the floor, your body assumes you have retired from the physical world. Your dense, powerful type-2 fibers slowly die off and are replaced by intramuscular fat. Congratulations. Your thighs are slowly turning into grade A Wagyu beef, heavily marbled with white fat. And in human biomechanics, being compared to expensive culinary cattle is not a compliment. The delusion peaks when we look at the modern obsession with recovery. In 2026, people spend thousands of dollars on deep tissue massage guns, cryotherapy chambers, and pneumatic compression boots, desperately trying to recover from. What exactly? Sitting in a chair for 8 hours. You do not need a percussive therapy device to heal your typing fatigue. You need a heavy object and the will to pick it up. The elderly legends you see lifting weights are not defying their age. They are simply refusing to let their nervous system fall asleep. They are holding on to life, quite literally, with a crushing grip. Your ergonomic mouse might save your wrist, but it is slowly unspooling your mortality. We treat aging as if it is a terminal disease. We look at the frail, crumbling bodies of our elders, and we whisper to ourselves that it is just the inevitable, tragic consequence of time. But time is not what breaks the human frame. The modern nursing home is not a sanctuary. It is a perfectly engineered demineralization chamber. We take the people we love, we place them on thick foam cushions, we tell them to rest, and we systematically strip away every single mechanical requirement their cells need to survive. We equate our love and respect with the total removal of their physical burden. Sit down, let me do that for you. Those are the words that signal the skeleton to dissolve. We wrap them in so much comfort that their biology assumes they are already dead. But do not look away at the elderly, look at yourself. You are spending 40 years of your life grinding at a desk. You are actively trading your spinal density, your cartilage imbibition, and your fast-twitch muscle fibers for a financial retirement fund. You are sacrificing the very biological machinery required to enjoy the freedom you are saving up for. What is the point of $1 million retirement portfolio if you do not have the skeletal integrity to walk up the stairs of your own home? If your fascia is so dehydrated and glued together that bending over to tie your own shoes feels like an Olympic event. Your body does not care about your bank account. It does not care about your chronological age. It does not care about the ergonomic rating of your furniture, or how many low-impact miles you pedaled in a dark room. It only cares about one absolute, unforgiving question. Did you give it a mechanical reason to exist today? If the answer is no, it will quietly begin to pack up and leave. Take a deep breath. Stand up, maybe do a heavy farmer's carry with your groceries today instead of using the shopping cart. I want you to go down to the comments right now and be brutally honest. What is your most expensive, comfortable habit, and how fast is it secretly dissolving your bones? Confession is the first step to biomechanical salvation. And if you want to know why those thick, highly cushioned running shoes you just spent $200 on are actively blinding your nervous system and systematically destroying your Achilles tendon, you need to watch this next analysis on the screen. Share this video with that friend who thinks walking slowly on a treadmill while watching a podcast is saving their life. As for me, I will be here analyzing fossils so you do not have to become one prematurely. Move heavy things, stay human.